Okay, so we've done our easy run with strides. Now we're going to move into a session. I'm going to click on my session, and what you'll see now is there's a lot more information. Again, this is taken directly from one of my athletes and what they have been programmed. So, again, it's all entered into your watch, so you don't have to worry about anything. 15-minute WU warm up, very typical, plus drills. I'll come back to them. Then you do 4 by 15 seconds accelerations, accels, with a 45-second static standing recovery. Acceleration, unlike a stride where you take a couple of seconds before the stride to build up speed, and then from when the stride starts, you're on pace. And acceleration is that process. So it's from zero and it's accelerating smoothly, not aggressively, towards a moderate to high effort as you go through the reps. So the first one, you accelerate to 70%, accelerate to 80% on the second, to 90, and then to 95, but you're only hitting that top speed for the very end. It's a nice smooth progression through with a 45-second static at the other end. Then, in this session's example, he has 5 by 1K of T. T stands for threshold. For somebody who's newer to sessions, that is going to be about your 45-minute race effort pace. Now, for a lot of people, that is going to be just above or just below their 10K pace. Regardless of where that falls in for you, 45 minutes is the rough goal that we tend to go for. As you start to become more developed and more trained, especially if you are aiming for something like the half marathon or even the 10K, your threshold is going to get pushed up more to a 60-minute effort pace. Now, for a lot of people, this is something around their 15K race pace if you're a flat runner. This may be on your half marathon side of things if you're an incredibly advanced runner. But that's kind of what threshold means. Essentially, it is your anaerobic threshold, or at the point where you can no longer take in any more oxygen for aerobic respiration and you start to go into an anaerobic state. This is what you hear about, like your lactate millimoles and stuff. It's kind of the point where you just go bang and your legs get really heavy and you start to feel a bit sick when you push past that for too long. So they have 5 by 1K threshold reps with a 60 seconds static recovery. So they just do their 1K rep. This was at a track. They would then just stop and wait for 60 seconds and then they would go again. After that fifth 60-second wait, they go into a 3-minute jog or 400 meters. So basically I want them to do 400 meters in 3 minutes, which for this athlete, 400 meters jogging would take 2 minutes. So this is making them go really, really slow. And then they go into 10 by 400 meters at threshold with a 30-second static. So this is hitting a very similar intensity, but just changing up the stimulus and how the metabolites are processed for the body. That's getting into the weeds of it, but essentially that's what this session for this athlete was. And then a 15-minute cool down. That 15-minute cool down might end up happening 5 minutes after their last rep, because by the time they might have gone to the toilet, they might have changed shoes, they might have had a quick stretch, they might have found this session really hard and they need a bit of time to recover. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter if it isn't immediately afterwards. And then I've gone into the notes. So this is where I'll be specific for that person. Now, most people, I don't really give pace ranges. In this athlete's case, because we've been working together for quite a long time and we're dialing in for a flat race, there are some paces, but I've still used the roughly symbol because it's never quite going to be the same. Depending on the day and all the factors we've spoken about previously, your threshold might have moved a bit with what that pace to be that same turn point. So if you're having a day where you're really stressed and you're really tired, if your threshold is normally 350, the pace might be 352, 353, 354, whatever it is. Wind, rain, sun, all of those factors come into it. You see that I've said you can press down a bit, and that is dependent upon the recovery. So if they're feeling really recovered at 45 seconds, and they're like, this is getting quite easy, they're allowed to push that pace down a little bit. That push is maybe 5 seconds per kilometer, so it's not very much. And that equates to 2 seconds per lap in this case. Then I go into the 400s, and it's got to start at the speed they finish their 1Ks, and that is so that they can assess how that 30-second static feels. And then, again, they're allowed to progress, but I've given them a speed limit. And this is because this person really likes to work hard. And that's the session. So that's kind of how I would do it. This is a very much called a threshold session. This is a very typical one. If you are somebody that's training for a 5K, you might see some faster stuff. If you're training for a marathon, you're going to see some longer stuff, but you're always going to see threshold in there. So I thought that would be a really good one to show you guys. Now, something I said I'd come back to is the drills up here. So 15-minute warm-up plus drills. And down the bottom, drills, 2 rounds, 10 A skips, 10 B skips, 10 pistons, 5 bounds. That one, I think, deserves its own video. And in fact, there will be tutorials about drills, but essentially, those drills are to be done after the warm-up, before the accelerations, taking their time and performed well because they're movement development practice, and that's what's going to make you a better runner. Simply from a visual perspective, it's finding the most efficient form for you, and that typically makes you look smoother when you're running. So when you look at the people running around the track and they look really good, there's movement development from running, but there's also movement development from targeted skill practice, and that is what drills are. Any questions? This is quite a big one, so please do let me know, and I'll more than happily help answer any questions that you might have.